So excited to be here to celebrate the re-signing of Nneka Ogwumike. So happy to have her as part of the Sparks family continuously as her story continues here with us. We are going to get started with an opening statement with KB, and then we'll go to Coach Miller, and then we'll open it up for questions. So in the meantime, if you guys do have a question, if you could raise your hand virtually, and I will get to you when we get to that portion. KB, go ahead.
Thanks, Corey. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for yet again another session with some of our key signings this off season. We are so excited to be here to finally share the news that Nneka Ogwumike is officially re-signed with the Sparks. We know we kept you in the wait for a while, and the wait is over. We started our free agency process with Nneka, and it's really appropriate that we end here today with Nneka. Simply put, she was the MVP of this entire free agency process for the Sparks. She was our top priority from the beginning. As Kurt and I became partners and started reimagining the resurgence of the Sparks, clearly Nneka was a top priority for us. We got on a plane, we flew to Houston. It was very important to both of us that we actively recruit her, and in doing so, share our independent thoughts about our vision for the Sparks, how those independent thoughts had started to form into a collective view, and equally importantly, invite her into that conversation. So free agency for us with Nneka was as much about a re-signing as it was about fostering alignment and inviting her into a conversation that would help shape the vision for the Sparks. So we're so excited that we're here to talk about that and share that. Once we achieved the alignment that I talked about, Nneka became our top recruiter. And as we embarked on any number of conversations to go after our top prospects, including Azare Stevens, Steph Talbot, and others, Nneka was instrumental in those conversations. And I'm convinced that the players that signed with us perhaps may not have done so if not for Nneka being our leader on and off the court and her involvement in the process. And last but not least, her willingness and generosity with respect to her own salary and her own contract, and providing us with the flexibility to do what we wanted and needed to do to lay a foundation this year for our build, given some of the circumstances that we were managing, was invaluable to us as an organization. So I could go on and on. I'll stop there. I want to get to Coach and look forward to follow-up conversations, but there simply aren't enough words to talk about how important it was for us to re-sign her, and equally importantly, how critical she was throughout the process.
Thank you, KB. Coach, I will turn it over to you.
You know, many have heard that during the interviewing process to become the head coach of LA, that Nneka played a big part in my decision. The alignment with KB, the vision on what LA could be was essential. But then through conversations with Nneka, really put a stamp on the opportunity that lied ahead to be the head coach of Los Angeles. I was blessed, as many of you know, to begin my pro career in LA and coach Nneka as a young assistant, learning the pro game, and walked into a very special time with the Sparks, with leaders like Nneka and Christy Tolliver and Elena Beard and Candace Parker and company. It was a really special time. And so through that process, talking with Nneka again and what LA could be, and the alignment with KB really brought it all back together. She made a huge impression through that interviewing process, but even a bigger impression on me on the type of leader she is during this free agency. She was our priority, as KB mentioned, and how valuable and how much she means to our organization. She truly was a beacon for the players around this league. And while we are handcuffed by a hard salary cap, and we couldn't sign everybody that had interest, I'm telling you that she was a beacon for other players and will be in the future. Her goals and aspirations are high for herself, and also the organization. But what I love to hear with a player that has been an MVP in this league, continues to play at a WNBA all-star level, all WNBA level. She mentioned numerous times during free agency, she wants to be coached, and she wants to get better. And she feels like there is more in her, and she's really looking forward to the coaching staff working with her. And that just gets me excited that your leader wants to be coached, will lead by example to other pros, that she's craving that coaching. She's craving what we're going to do schematically on the court and how we're going to use her. So really exciting times. A lot of this is holistic with Nneka's input and her part with the Sparks. And I'm really, really looking forward to being around her and her leadership. This is a peer-led league. Head coaches play a part, but so much of the leadership that happens in this league is in that locker room is peer-led. And we have one of the best, if not the best. So really exciting day to finally kind of be in front of the media to talk about Nneka and Nneka's commitment to the Sparks.
Great. Thank you both for that. We'll now open it up to questions. We'll begin with Tukni Nguyen. Tukni, go ahead.
Hi, Nneka. Good to have you back. Congratulations on re-signing. Previously, you were a core player, so you couldn't really talk to as many people. Now, with the opportunity as an unrestricted free agent, what was your decision process like, and how did that lead you back to the Sparks?
I think one thing that I really appreciate with this whole process was how KB and Kurt really approached it from a free agency standpoint. I think given kind of like my career and of course my own, previous free agencies, there's always this assumption that is to be made that, oh, she's just going to sign back. She's just going to sign back. And even though that's what ends up happening, honoring the process is really important to me. And so this is kind of like my second free agency where like I have been recruited and courted, and it's more than just about putting together a team to win a championship. And for me, it's definitely about the vision, about how we see this organization going, and just achieving and sustaining the rich history and the success of an iconic franchise. And so I'm really blessed to have been able to have been drafted to this place. And so, and to make it a home really. And that was a lot of what was going on in my head through the free agency process. And I'd have to say this is probably my most enjoyable free agency process because I've really been blessed enough to have made it this far in the league, but then also to reach a moment in my career where I feel is like incredibly pivotal. And that being heavily complemented by a GM like KB and a coach like Kurt. And in a moment where I really feel like what we see the Sparks doing is kind of what I think everyone hopes happens for this team. And we just want to see it shine. And I feel like that's something that I want to be a part of. And I feel like it's something that I'm meant to be a part of.
Thank you, Nneka. We'll go next question to Rashawn Haylock. Rashawn, go ahead.
Hey, Nneka, congratulations. Welcome back. You mentioned just how much you appreciated Kurt and KB sort of going through this as a true free agency process. What does that look like? Is that more of like a courtship? Is that getting on the whiteboard and aligning their vision sort of with yours? What was that like?
Yeah, I would say like initially it was a lot of, what do you see? What do you feel? How has it been? What do you want it to look like? And then kind of aligning that with each other's experiences and visions. And that looked a lot like, fully transparent, having phone calls, suggestions, like talking through things together. And of course, coming to Houston. There's very few people in like my my career world or WNBA world that have come to my house and where I grew up in Houston. And so that was incredibly symbolic and very meaningful for me. Sometimes it's to the point where like, I'm so associated with California that I don't think people know that like I'm from Texas. And it was really fun to be able to not just like spend time with them and like talk to them about like how I see this team going. But most importantly, as Kurt said, like I want to be coached, I want to be challenged. And I think it takes brilliant people to understand the importance of the diversity of thought. And so that's kind of been a lot of what has been going on when it comes to like us communicating and us figuring out exactly like what's best for the team, what's new that maybe we haven't experienced before, how can we change these types of things. And I'm not the only person in this organization who's had so much time here that also contributes to that. So just kind of like almost like a family reorganization and building towards a future that we all want to see and that we all really envision seeing. And it's been really great. I've had a really, I think sometimes I feel as though, in the beginning, it kind of felt like, ooh, it's too good to be true because I haven't really experienced honest and transparent communication at this level in my career. And so it's really nice to know that this is just how, good, great people are. And I've honestly, obviously, always believed that that's what I think the Sparks can and will be. So, yeah.
Thank you.
We'll go next question to Mark Schindler, WNBA.com. Mark, go ahead.
Hey, Nneka, good to see you. Obviously, as Kurt and KB have mentioned, you've accomplished so much in this league. When you have, hit the off season and you're kind of sorting through what you want to do next and what that looks like, what's that process like for you?
I mean, I have like longstanding like goals that, in its most basic form, like I write down every day and I think about every day. But say, for example, last year off season, when we had finished playing and everything was kind of like all said and done, the next day when it comes to like my performance is when next season starts. Rest and recovery was obviously, something that was really important, but for me, it's just more about like kind of leaning into the feeling of like not making the playoffs 2 years in a row, and that certainly not being a majority of my experience in the W, and understanding that there's just a lot of work to be done, and not just to be done for one season to make the playoffs or make the finals or win, but I'm always thinking about like, what is something that we can do that will last? Like it has to last. And, in life and in careers, you experience ups and downs, but there's a discipline and a passion that keeps things sustainable to a degree, that allows like the larger group to see the vision. And so that's kind of a lot of what I was thinking about in the off season. For me, when it comes to like being physically ready, like that's not a question at all. Like that's nothing anyone ever has to worry about. Now, approaching like free agency and like new season, I guess my approach to free agency is very different. And it may be because like, I've only played for one team, but, in free agency, and I love seeing all of this news around players moving and seeing where they want to go and building teams in other places. A lot of players leaving different places to go to one place. But my approach is really like, who wants to play here, as opposed to where do I want to go? And so a lot of like my communications and a lot of how I conduct myself in free agency, whether it's for me or to get other players, it's not about like, hey, let's build this team. Hey, let's come here. It's just like, hey, like this is what we're about. If you're for it, come through. If not, then, everything's not for everybody. And so that's kind of been my approach to I guess like building goals for this team.
Awesome. Thank you.
We'll go next question to John W. Davis. John, go ahead.
Hey, Nneka, how's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I have a very open-ended question for you, but it's pretty simple, but I'd love to hear your perspective on it. What is your vision for the Sparks?
I mean, I kind of touched on it, something that is lasting, something that is unequivocal, something that is non-negotiable when it comes to what people think about when they think about the Sparks. And if I could just kind of like answer this generally, when I describe that, I mean, like, okay, obviously the Sparks are a basketball team, so a team that wins, and a team that wins with greatness and with competitiveness. A team that gets people excited about basketball and sport, a team that is culturally relevant, a team that is changing things for women in sport, and also a team that really leans into what it means to be in Los Angeles and playing sports in Los Angeles. And, you know, if we're getting kind of more into the weeds of things, creating an organization that builds its players on and off the court and post-retirement. And so seeing an organization that is through and through WNBA, through and through women, through and through empowerment, through and through women empowerment and advocacy. Like, so that's kind of like what I see for the Sparks. I want us to become the North Star.
Great. Thank you, Nneka. We'll go next question to Miriam Swanson. Miriam, go ahead.
Hey, Nneka, congrats and welcome back. I think Kurt mentioned that sort of your contract flexibility, and that probably goes in line with sort of the sustainability and the larger vision, but kind of what goes for you? What was the calculus in that, and what went into that sort of decision, and how to make that work?
For me, I want to play on a great team. You know, I really, really want to play on a great team. And I think that how we saw that has always aligned, but given, as KB kind of alluded to before, the circumstances of the nature of the free agency that we've had, it changed that course. And so this isn't the first year that I've really even had this type of expression of, you know, obviously like salary. But I want to play with good players, and I want to play with players that want to be here. And, you know, Kurt said it before, like we didn't sign everyone that wanted to come, but we're hoping that that's something that can sustain in future free agencies. And so just to put it candidly, I told KB and Kurt, and they fought me on this a lot. I said, wherever you need my number to be to get who we need to get, let's just do that. And I really believe that, because I'm working with not just a GM and a coach, but also players that I believe would fully invest in me too. And, you know, this was a very unique free agency for us. And we want all of our players to be happy. We want all of them to also be valued. And we have a group of players that understand that. And that's just kind of what it was.
Thanks.
We'll go next question to Jackie Powell. Jackie, go ahead.
Hi, Nneka. Good to see you. Thank you for taking the time. I think you and Chene have mentioned in the past that maybe a long-term goal or a goal is to win a championship together. And so I'm curious about is how the Sparks are in a place right now to be back on that path after spending some time maybe not on it. Mm-hmm. And what are the different signs or indicators that you noticed during the free agency process that helped you realize that?
Well, the first one was that we got Kurt, for sure. Definitely. That was definitely a big sign. And I say that not just because of Kurt's success as a coach, but Kurt might be Kurt, well, aside from obviously us being on the same team and having previous coaches, Kurt is the only other coach that's coached both of us. And so my family believes heavily in signs. You know, when we went to Stanford had won the championship in 1990 and 1992, both of the years that Chene and I were born. Like, it's just, it's those things are symbolic and important. And so to know that Kurt has coached both of us, knows both of our personalities, and also, I mean, just plainly knows how to put pieces together on the court. And with that in mind, like Chene and I having very different games, I'm excited to see that. And of course too, you know, from an individual standpoint as like players on the court, just understanding where like Chene is in her career, where I am in my career. And there's certainly more years behind us than in front of us. And for us to kind of like be here together with Kurt, with KB, and KB, I can't forget KB, because KB KB is the one who got Kurt. So, you know, for us to kind of like be in a situation where we're on a team, think like the pieces are kind of coming together, I would say that that was certainly signifying that something was really getting assembled here. And ultimately having, you know, certain players come and, you know the personality of me and my sister, and, you know, knowing what it means to, I guess, like us kind of creating this foundation of sisterhood is, I think, also something that is really contributing to like us realizing a dream of like winning together. And I'm really excited for it.
I appreciate that answer. Thank you.
We'll go next question to Haley McGoldrick. Haley, go ahead.
Hi, Nneka. You talked a little bit about your vision for the Sparks and how you kind of wanted to be obviously an advocate for your teammates and women across the league. As president of the WNBPA, that's obviously something you're pushing for too. You have a new teammate in Nneka Hamby, who's not only a mother, but is pregnant currently. Knowing that there's so many moms across the league and your position as president, how much does it mean to you, and what does it mean to you to be able to have a voice and push for, you know, bigger maternal rights and more advocacy for these women?
It's huge. It means a lot. And that was something that was heavily in consideration in our last CBA. And, you know, since we've been seeing, you know, protection of salaries for planning mothers and players that want to start families. And I think that that's trending in the right direction. Now, I think kind of like what makes things a little bit more difficult, which I fully believe will evolve, is what that means for, you know, guarantees, salaries, and replacement players, and you know, resources even available for players and players who are no longer playing while they're pregnant. You know, there's so much around this conversation that, in my opinion, can lend to some really monumental changes from us being able to even like step into this realm from the last CBA. Not only do we have Nneka, who is a mom and also about to have another child, but we also have Katie Lou, who is now also going to be pregnant during the season. And what's tough for me is that we have teams with owners who celebrate the players who are planning moms, knowing that they can't play, but also still want to remain competitive. And this is something that I know will come up, you know, in future negotiations, because at the end of the day, being able to replace a pregnant player with adequate value as it's reflected in a contract with another player is imperative to maintain, obviously, the competitive nature of this league. And a lot of that can be solved with, like, you know, what we know to be is a soft cap. And so I'm hoping that as we enhance the benefits for moms and planning moms in this league, that we can also still reinforce the advantages of being able to replace those types of players with individuals who can have salaries that reflect the player that is no longer playing, and also for the owners to be able to, because I know we have owners that want to remain competitive. And I'm really glad that you asked me this question, because right now what we see is a lot of players making the investment, a lot of players making the investment in their teammates because of certain restrictions that we have. And owners want everybody to win. So I'm hoping that that's something that'll change soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nneka. We have time for just a couple more questions. So we will go to Amanda Skurlock next, and then Rico Cabrera. Amanda, go ahead.
Hi, Nneka. Welcome back to LA. Just tell me about your experience with the, like, kind of recruiting the other players, especially front court players like Azure and Stephanie Talbot. What was your role, and how was that experience for you?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, a lot of the communications that I have with players, how do I even say this? It's quite seamless because I'm the president of the union. So like, I kind of talk to everybody anyway. So when I have these conversations with players, it's not like a complete stranger is hitting them up. At least I would hope not. But the conversations they were really amazing. You know, we have some amazing women in this league. And one personal goal of mine, obviously as president, was to be approachable. And I felt that when I was talking to players, and I'm really grateful that that's the case. And it may be because I am also the president of the league. And so the rapport is kind of like automatic, and like just having conversations with like players' goals and for me, what I loved to hear was that they felt what we were trying to do here in LA, and that I owe that completely to Kurt and KB because, you know, players talk about their own recruiting processes and they want to know more from the horse's mouth, and that's how you end up talking to other players. And so I'm not a pushy person, you know, I reach out if any questions are needed. And I always like doing my due diligence and ensuring that I at least communicated with anyone that was like seriously considering our team. So I had great conversation with Steph and with Z and De'Erica and Jazz. And it's really been a lot of fun. It's almost like you're just kind of like talking to like your friends.
Thank you, Nneka. We'll go next question to Rico. Rico, go ahead.
Buenas tardes, Nneka. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, gracias.
Good to see you. Congratulations. Two-part question for you, Nneka. Quickly, first on Coach and Karen's newly revamped or new look to the team, the strengths you see in all of the new player personnel that are coming in, and how it's going to immediately show results, because your fans we're just waiting. All the fans, of course, in LA are waiting for you to return to, as they say, the playoffs, going back that shortly. But quickly on that, and then secondly, the situation now with Brittany, BG back. Can you touch on those?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I would have to say that this is another mark of great management and coaching. The strengths, we obviously know the court strengths of all of the players. If you don't obviously know, then you will find out. It's not even something that I really need to talk about, because I think that the strength of every player on our team is that every person who is coming is a good person, like is like truly a good person. And that's huge. You know, Kurt talks a lot about winning in the locker room first. And I always go back to the quote of, you know, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And I really feel strongly about that being the composition of our team today. And so, you know, when it comes to BG, so excited that she's back. So happy to see her. I hope everyone feels the same. I know everyone feels the same. We're excited to have our home opener versus her, which is going to be amazing. And you know, we just want her to be able to be happy and to be healthy. And obviously, we're encouraging her to come back on her own time. But, you know, it's not unlike BG to come out, you know, quickly and say that she was going to play again. And of course, you know, given like player health and safety, I think that the conversation around travel is it's definitely centered around her, because quite frankly, she cannot fly commercially. And so I'm hoping that something will happen so that she can fly safely and comfortably to be able to compete at the highest level in a league that missed her so dearly, you know. And I look forward to working with the league to figure out what we can do, because the way that I see it is, you know, we're celebrating so much growth in this league. Whether it's the Commissioner's Cup, whether it's now we're playing 40 games, you know, more games on TV. And so for us to be able to play more games in a healthy way, for the product to look good on the court, which contributes to player experience, for players like BG to be able to travel safely and keep her mind right in the game. And we want to contribute to all of that growth. The conversation around how we travel between games is incredibly necessary. And we're going to have to figure out what we can do to ensure that everybody has equal playing field when it comes to how we travel. And health and safety is first and foremost. So that's what I really think a lot about when it comes to BG.
Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Nneka. We'll go last question to Stephanie Holland. Stephanie, go ahead.
Hi, Nneka. Welcome back to LA.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering, for you as the president of the union, what was it like to see this active free agency period where so many players were taking charge of their careers and knowing their value and not settling and making these huge decisions and taking these big swings? What was that like for you to watch?
Oh, it was fun. You know, I feel like since we signed our CBA, it's been, I mean, each year is increasingly more active, which is it's really amazing to see so many free agency WNBA headlines in the news. And I think it's incredibly important for us to continue to maintain this growth, which also obviously leads to accessibility. But I'm happy to see players really taking charge and figuring out exactly what they want out of their careers and where they can get it. In a lot of ways, I feel like we also kind of like preempted the NBA trade deadline activity. So it's just fun to be able to see. It's just fun to be able to see, like Kurt said, this league to be peer-led. So I'm always here for the players and what they want to do and how they want to do it. And as long as it's covered and contributes to the growth of the league, it can't be bad.
Great. Thank you, Nneka. We will now go back to KB for a closing statement. KB, go ahead.
Thanks, Corey. Well, I mean, I think I've said so much about her. As I said at the outset, I could talk about her all day. Nneka knows how I feel about her and how special she is to us. But she's one of those unique players, unique people who has the combination of the focus and the work ethic and the discipline and the fortitude. But in her case, it's matched with a really unique sense of grace and warmth and empathy. And that is what really puts her, in my opinion, in really rare air. She cares about the why as much as she cares about the who, as much as she cares about the how. And she's an elite player. She's a consummate pro. She's an inspirational leader, and she's a global ambassador. And quite frankly, simply put, the LA Sparks, Kurt and I, her teammates, our entire organization, we are incredibly fortunate to have her as a teammate.
Thank you, KB. We'll close with Coach. Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been involved with women's basketball at the collegiate or pro level well over 30 years now. And even myself, I had to take a step back through the free agency and traveling down to Houston and spending time with Nneka and see the state championships and the banners in the high school gym and the mural on a building out in Houston. And then you think about the impact she had at Stanford and then her pro career and what she's meant to the Sparks, but an MVP season, a basket essentially at the buzzer to win a championship. The legacy, is up there, like there's not very many, there's not very many active MVP candidates in our league, and she's one of them. And so her legacy on the court has probably not been written about as much as it should. But what's more impressionable to me, and I echo what KB says on how fortunate we are, is her legacy as a leader for the PA and this league, and her her mindset for the league and all 144 players and the Sparks then also she is one of a kind off the floor, and we're very, very fortunate to have her represent our franchise. And I'm very fortunate at this point in my career to coach someone like Nneka.